Please welcome our presenters to the stage.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. I'm Whitney, Holland. I lead the Lockheed Martin Data Conversion Enablement Organization for 1LMX Transformation Program. Today, we're going to share some lessons learned about our recent Release 1 Go Live, and also share more about our journey as we continue to scale and accelerate on this continued journey as we move forward to the next releases. With me is Glen Gagnon from Syniti. He's been a key partner in this transformation.
Thank you so much, Whitney. Yeah, Glen Gagnon. I'm Syniti's head of US Regulated, which includes our aerospace and defense. And I've had the pleasure the past 2 years, since early 2024, to be working side by side with Whitney and helping the Lockheed 1LMX program. Whitney, why don't you tell them a little bit more about Lockheed?
Lockheed Martin is a global aerospace and defense company with 120,000 employees and with customers across land, sea, air, space, and cyber domains. When we speak about our transformation across a complex SAP S/4HANA transformation landscape, the scale of what's in front of us is spoken to when we look at the size of the company. Furthermore, not just scale, we look at the complexity. Lockheed is composed of 4 distinct business areas: aeronautics, missiles and fire control, rotary and mission systems, and space, each of which have their own legacy systems for ERP, manufacturing, and engineering. That adds an additional layer of complexity as we move through this journey of transformation. So this speaks more broadly to the roadmap. I've mentioned scale, complexity, but then there's the schedule component as well. We have to scale up in a highly complex landscape while also meeting this roadmap. We've just completed MFC's transformation, R1, in January of 2026, just a few months ago. Now we're moving towards EO, RMS, aeronautics, and space between now and 2029. However, the roadmap and the schedule that you see here, what it doesn't show you is the overlapping efforts that are happening as we scale. We will be actively working each of these releases, overlapping through time, and that adds additional challenges with driving a true enterprise capability with data conversion. Meanwhile, we keep in mind we must continue to standardize processes, drive transparency, modernize our systems, and ensure that we are driving collaboration with the business and with IT.
Great, and thank you, Whitney. So I want to talk a little bit about why traditional data conversion fails, specifically at scale. Whitney told you about the complexity of Lockheed Martin, 4 distinctly run business units. And today I want to deep dive a little bit into some of the challenges so that Whitney can then share her perspective of how specifically Release 1 overcame some of these challenges. And I want you guys to think about not the execution failures, but the systemic problems that need to be resolved and the complexities of what scale really means, not just data volume, but organizational scale and complexities of those organizations. And so when we think about data cleansing, and specifically reactive cleansing, we have a couple of key things that even in your business today are challenging to clean. And when we get into the project ecosystem, we need to talk about data relevancy, what data is being used, duplication, do we have duplicates across systems, within systems, and then data quality. And so bringing that forward is hard enough in place, but now you're redesigning all of those processes at the same time. So how do you keep track of that, and how do you get out in front of those cleansing opportunities for things you may not even know yet? Unclear ownership. It's the great debate. Business versus IT. Who owns the data? It's the business. And when we say that, we still see traditional approaches coming tool forward. The IT organization says, I need a tool. And inevitably, that leads to lack of accountability and ultimately rework when the business finally starts seeing the results. The business must be accountable and must be directly involved in your engagements. Fragmented tooling. There are countless tasks on these programs. And maybe if you're a program manager out there, you've counted them, thousands. But in general, we are asking our business teams and our project teams to dive in and take care of 100 tasks a week. They're doing data validation. They're writing functional specs. They're doing SIT testing. They're doing project planning. They're doing defect management. The list goes on. And the issue with the fragmentation of tooling is that there's no time. All of those things need to be done immediately. And when you impose that onto people that are still learning new things and learning what good looks like with a great set of tools, then inevitably what happens is they go back to the old way of doing things. They either misuse the tool, and if we're not getting full advantage of the tool, we can't summarize metrics for our management team. Or we spend a full week summarizing those metrics. We don't get automation benefits out of some of the mappings that we have built into the platform. And then siloed teams. I love to use the example of Material Master because that's a day one conversation on most projects that I try to trick people with. Who owns Material Master? Well, nearly the entire organization, because it depends who you talk to. Material Master, especially as you get into all the extensions, you have to bring those teams together because you have finance stakeholders, you have people in the warehouse, you have procurement, you have other business functions. And so as we move on, what's that traditional plan for data? If you can focus yourself to the right side, loaded data is first. Loaded data is a technical approach. And I hear often that we can't start the data work because we don't have the design yet. Well, you guys have data in your system today, right? So why can't I start doing data work? And technically loading the data, of course, is necessary, but it's not even to the level of verified. And when data migration is just a means to a project milestone and not a program milestone and a trusted asset within your organization, within your program, inevitably, the data migration team is rushed. We're pushing data in only for SIT testing, and we're not thinking about what those next two tiers, quality and trusted data, really mean. And so as we build this out, beyond verified data, all the way to the left of the screen, even before the project starts, we need to assess. We want to look at the scope of your systems. We want to look, again, at those relevancy, potential duplicates, data cleansing, things that impact your business process because that impacts your design. And instead of design assumptions based on standard clean core S4, you're now looking at your organization and you have facts, you've quantified that. And so quality data is making sure that all of the data elements, we talk about consistency across systems, we talk about completeness and accuracy of data, any elements in the tables and fields. And you might say, okay, well, if I have data quality, then I inevitably have trusted data. But not quite, because there's one more step. Trusted data is being able to trust that your end-to-end processes are efficient. Things like running costing or financial close. When you actually go to execute those major processes, will they work? And do you trust that they'll work efficiently and that they'll work every time? And so, Whitney, would you like to share your perspective?
This is the fun part. So now I'd like to share with you how we operationalized as we moved forward on this journey of scaling this data conversion as an enterprise capability. How did we operationalize this so that we truly are data first? I'm going to speak to some of these boxes. I know there's a lot to see on that screen, so I'll broadly point, but the first action we took is we looked at data quality. Let's pull left. Let's pull forward data quality and cleansing activities. You can start your data quality cleansing and quality activities before a single conversion spec is written, before a line of code is written. You can do that in early project a year before you get into your full development. We learned that fairly quickly during R1 MFC, that it was imperative as we look at that roadmap, as we scale and deal with that increasing complexity and very high volumes of data with overlapping schedule, we needed to begin looking at data quality now. We did this by engaging with all of those business areas further out on that roadmap. We trained them. I called them boot camps. People thought that was fun. We got them trained on what data quality was, how to use the tool. We gave them role-based access to dashboards and reporting. And then we created a regular cadence to develop these reports within our enterprise data conversion tool so that they can reach that data through self-service and examine their own data. We also importantly connected the data quality system to the production legacy systems so that they had a real-time view through that self-service reporting of the quality and health of their data. We got them started, we got a rhythm going, and we used the gift of time that we had before we got closer to go live on those later releases. Second, we realized validation can't just be a downstream task that happens at cutover. Validation is something you have to think about very early in your project. Validation includes partnering with people from the business, from your IT teams as well, and reconciling and verifying that the data that has come across from legacy to your target systems is as expected and to specification. We also engaged across the business to identify validation teams early on future releases and began training them on the validation process while also introducing AI-enabled automation to help accelerate their work. So they moved more from validation into verification, moving from completely human validation in the middle of the night that could take 12 hours to a verification process that may take minutes instead. This helps with overall cutover performance, but it also ensures when we're going through mock cutovers months before the final production go live, we've had an opportunity to exercise validation and root out actual defects early on based off of repeatable validation scripts and automations. I'll give you one more. Third would be on just conversion detailed design, making sure that you really take the time to measure twice, cut once, which is, we ensured that with the conversion design specification sessions that we had, we included both the business and IT. We wanted to remove those silos. That partnership was very important. We spent more time on conversion specifications to ensure that we had not just the mapping, but we really understood the requirements for the conversion. Then we also ensured we created a forum for solution architects across all of these product teams to review changes to these specifications as we move through the project, recognizing data conversion is highly complex, highly integrated, and when you change one data conversion object or requirement, you can have significant consequential downstream impact. Removing silos, absolutely critical. So if I had to sum it up, if I had to give a punch list, which I've discussed before, having a punch list for what we learned from, this would be it. Punch list. Shift left. Bring your data quality and cleansing considerations forward. Do it now. Don't wait until 3 or 4 months before cutover. If you have the gift of time, use it. Help partner with your business. Enable them so that it's their data. Help enable them so that they can have a clear IT automation-enabled view of the health of their data before we get to conversion. That leads to the business enablement portion. Enable the business to be partners with you as you engage in the data quality, the specifications, as well as the validations. 3, it's standardize your methodology. Have a consistent process with tooling, processes, reviews. Everybody knows what to expect, and you do it uniformly across your product teams. With scalability, standardization is key. And finally, unify your ecosystem. Really look through maximizing the capabilities of the tooling you're using and try to consolidate as much as possible to leverage your investments so that you have one holistic view with consistent processes in tooling in which you've enabled the business to be partners with while you move everything left to get ahead of moving the data and getting through data conversion, not as an afterthought or a downstream technical task at cutover, but as a fully integrated enterprise capability throughout the life cycle of the project. So that takes us to the last one. So where do we go from here? So we talked about scaling, complexity, schedule. Here we've partnered together to define a strong path forward. We've got a checklist we're going through where we're making sure that we're implementing all of these process and tooling improvements to get us across that finish line. But when I really look at what we've learned here, it's not really just about pulling left, enabling the business. It's really, I think, the discovery that data conversion itself does need to be thought of at the very beginning of the project, not as the end. It's something that you must fully integrate end to end throughout your implementation. Well, we're right in the middle of our transformation. We do hope that we'll be back in 2 years to tell you how it went. Thank you.
Thank you so much.